cut to the chase. Everyone give me some space. Don't fall out, we fall into place. Every step walking with grace, amen. Keeping my foot off the brakes. Impact, I'm ready to brace. We fall down and land on our face. Just to get up and finally escape. Wait, boom, boom. Baby, I'm trying to get paid. Legends don't die in the grave. They live through the story they made, okay? Boom, boom. Baby, I'm trying to get paid. Legends don't die in the grave. Hey, legends don't die anyway. I was working on a play today. Body bags covered away. I paved, zipped up like a bathing ape. How many of us then came and stayed? Not too many. I've been staying awake to get it and get right on every mistake. I give them a bite, they taking a plate. It's all been a feeling that I couldn't shake. So I just keep killing till I'm at the gates. We straight, we treat them like worms in a lake. They bake, just give me a drum and a bass. I skate and grind till I'm numb in the face, okay? Don't fuck up my day. Don't talk about clutch, I got ice in my veins. I'm coated in Trey, I stick to the code. I'm glitching the game. I do anything for the win at the end of the day. I gotta cut to the chase. Everyone give me some space. Don't fall out, we fall into place. Every step walking with grace, amen. Keeping my foot off the brakes. Impact, I'm ready to brace. We fall down and land on our face. Just to get up and finally escape. Wait, boom, boom. Baby, I'm trying to get paid. Legends don't die in the grave. They live through the story they made, okay? Boom, boom. Baby, I'm trying to get paid. Legends don't die in the grave. Legends don't die anyways. Boom, boom. Baby, I'm trying to get paid. Legends don't die in the grave. They live through the story they made, okay? Boom, boom. Baby, I'm trying to get paid. Legends don't die in the grave. Legends don't die anywhere.
Welcome into another edition of On the Marks. I am Jason Marks. Thank you very much for tuning in. And always make sure that you like, share the video, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also give me a follow on TikTok, Instagram, and all the social media platforms. And I have to admit, I've been a little bit of a slacker lately, where I was going to lay out 4 minisodes a week and live stream on Tuesday, which eventually we're going to be moving to Monday and Friday as we get closer to the college football season, which I'm thinking probably around August 15th is when that's going to start. But I've had some behind the scenes stuff that I've had to kind of take care of and smooth out and everything like that. So it's been a daunting task. I will give you that. But apologies for the lack of content within the last couple of days. That's on me, but I've just had to get a few things taken care of, get a few things smoothed over. There could be a couple of changes that may come in the next couple of days, maybe the next week or so, but I will keep you posted as that goes along. But let's get right into it, and it seems that every day when I wake up and turn on ESPN, my first question is usually, when will ESPN shut the fuck up about the Dallas Cowboys? because it is all they seem to talk about. Whether it's the expectations going into the season, which we usually know the answer to that by now, to last season where it was Dak Prescott's contract negotiation, CeeDee Lamb's contract negotiation, and here we are again talking about the contract negotiation and the fallout, if you could say that, with Micah Parsons. I will say first off, I am a Dallas Cowboy hater. I will be upfront with you about that, but I will give my objective view on it, even though that I am not really, for the most part, not really a Dallas Cowboy hater, but a Jerry Jones hater. That's probably more of it than anything. Maybe it goes back to the time when the Cowboys were knocking out my hero Joe Montana from a Super Bowl appearance. Maybe that has something to play. But again, we're here to talk about current events and not really get into my psychoanalysis. But the news that's been dominating the headlines in the NFL has been the fallout in the contract negotiations with the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, and one Micah Parsons. I will say this, that I am a big fan of Micah Parsons. Not that because he's a good football player, which that plays a role in it as well, but he is also a pit bull enthusiast. He had a pit bull named Simba that passed away a couple of years. Good boy, rest in power, King Simba. So that even made me a bigger fan of Micah Parsons outside of what he does on the field. And the contract negotiations have not been going great between him and the Dallas Cowboys, which there's the angle of where he was just going to sit back, let Jerry negotiate the deals with Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, get them locked up. Then he was a team player. Now, to no surprise to anyone, and I think most people don't disagree with this take, is Jerry, just like Tony Romo, overpaid for Dak Prescott. Now, I'm not going to hate on Dak Prescott. I'm not going to hate on his agent. They got their bag. Good for them. But was he really worth that money? No, he wasn't. But again, that's Jerry doing the same shit for the last 30 to 40 years and expecting a different result. And it feels that way with Micah Parsons as well. Slow play in the contract negotiations, where you might have been able to get out in front of it, lock him up, and you're good. But that's just not how Jerry rolls. Because in the meantime, you've had TJ Watt get his bag. You've had Max Crosby get his bag. You've had Myles Garrett get his bag. And Micah Parsons is over here looking, go, okay, what about me? When am I going to get mine? Because I was the team player to let you lock up Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. Now where's mine? And again, this goes all the way back to the negotiating contract with Emmitt Smith, where it was so played. It eventually got done, but in the end, I don't think Emmitt was too happy. And how long have we let Jerry Jones be able to milk those draft picks in that trade for Herschel Walker? Because that's where he had the most success, where he got most of those players on that Super Bowl run in the 90s with Emmitt Smith, Russell Maryland, with Woodson. That's where he got the majority of his run. And here's the other thing that will blow your mind, that most people have already thought about or just don't even think about. He's had 1, Jimmy Johnson, 2, Barry Switzer, which all won Super Bowls under his ownership. Then you had Bill Parcells, Mike McCarthy. I forgot one. When he took over the team, he fired Tom Landry. Tom Landry was a Super Bowl winning coach. We're talking about a man who has fired 5 Super Bowl winning coaches in his tenure in Dallas. And the biggest screw up of it was Bill Parcells. Yes, that Bill Parcells. The guy who won multiple Super Bowls for the Giants in the 80s, and at the end of that decade, took New England to a Super Bowl, damn near took the New York Jets. Yes, those New York Jets. Damn near took them to a Super Bowl. But he comes to Dallas, and it was a mess. Remember the famous line from Bill Parcells about, if I'm going to be, and I'm paraphrasing, if I'm going to be the 5-star chef, I need to say in the groceries, which we all know it's Jerry's way or the highway. Jimmy Johnson found that out. Barry Switzer found that out. Chan Gailey found that out. Dave Campo found that out. Jason Garrett found that out. Which now it's almost like we've always heard for the last 3 decades that, or even further than that, the Dallas Cowboys are America's team. There may be some truth to that in more ways than one. Maybe it is the fact that they are on every Sunday afternoon on every major network in every market around the country. That's one part of it. But the other part of it is they're widely known. They're a worldwide brand, just like America. You either love them or you hate them. There's no in between. There's always high expectations coming into a new year. And of course, they never meet them because of incompetent leadership. Maybe I was wrong this entire time. Maybe the Dallas Cowboys are in fact America's team. Just on that note. That the fact that they always have high expectations and then they never, ever meet them. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again and expecting the different result. We all know that Jerry Jones is never going to change. Jerry Jones is looking for his last bit of glory hole. His words, if you remember back 10 years ago, his words, he's won him some glory hole. He hadn't come close to the glory hole that he actually wants. He might be getting some glory hole that you might not expected. But Dallas hasn't got any closer. Well, last time they were in the NFC Championship game, 1996, I think, right off the top of my head. And the closest they got was in the season with Dez Bryant when he may have caught it. Maybe he didn't catch it. But outside of that, it's always been a dud. And this season's not going to be easier for them. Because you have the Philadelphia Eagles who are right now, we know their identity. We know the identity of that team now. It is grit, granite, cinder block in your face dogs. Because what they did to the Chiefs in that Super Bowl was just jaw dropping. And they're going to be back at it again. The Washington Commanders. If you want to say Redskins or the Wash Epstein client files, whatever their name is. They're on the rise. They were in the NFC Championship game last season. And yes, I know, with the former Falcons head coach and Dan Quinn. But we won't talk about that. The New York Giants, are they getting it right? You look at the draft that they had this past April. They could be moving in the right direction. And especially if Jackson Dart turns out to be the right pick. So it's not getting easier for Jerry, and time's not on his side. And after all this, are we even going to look into the Dallas Cowboys and have high expectations? I think that we've all learned our lesson over the last 30 years. That they're going to be hyped up by ESPN, all the major networks. Which, by the way, I believe the NFL just bought NFL Red Zone. I have some concerns about that, but that'll be another conversation for another time. It's kind of a wait and see approach with me. But why did this whole thing with Micah Parsons have to happen to begin with? Jerry, we know you're going to overpay for your best players. You might as well just went ahead and got it out of the way. Not to say that Micah Parsons didn't deserve the money, but if you wanted to get out ahead and set the market, because that's what a lot of owners do in this day and age, and that's what Cleveland did with Myles Garrett. That's what Las Vegas did with Max Crosby. And that's what Pittsburgh did with TJ Watt. They went ahead and they set out the market. Once the market was set, they had to go and they had to react. And Micah Parsons is now looking, is say, well, the trade demand was a part of the negotiation. Again, why did it have to get to that point? And I understand, well, salary caps. Well, you got to think about the salary cap. You got to think about managing it. But why don't you get out in front of it? Be a little bit more aggressive. You think with Stephen Jones now maybe taking more responsibilities within the organization, has anything really changed with this franchise, with this team? Because they've been doing the same thing since 1993. Maybe even 1989. Whichever. And it doesn't work. And the proof is in the fact that after firing Tom Landry, you've had 4 Super Bowl winning coaches, which 2 of them won. And then you wanted to do it their way, and there was conflict, and you fire them. Or they leave. Barry Switzer, Jimmy Johnson. And then what have you done since then? Think Chan Gailey was going to put you back in because, well, he'll just, toe the line. Dave Campo. I know Cowboys fans don't want to relive those days. That was a very, very dark time of Dave Campo. Bill Parcells comes in where you have a chance. You got a guy who wins the Super Bowl, and you screw that up too. And then Jason Garrett, which, of course, eventually he gets terminated. Mike McCarthy, another Super Bowl winning coach. And that was, as our president would say, disaster, total disaster. So it comes to a point that maybe it's not everybody else in the organization that is the problem. And I know I'm not saying anything groundbreaking when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. So when I see them being talked about on ESPN, I'm sitting here going, nope, no, I'm not going to buy into it. Not going to buy it. I'll believe it when I see it, but I'm not buying into it. I'm not going to buy into it. You're not going to sucker me this time after you've been trying to do it for 29 years. Not this time. But Micah Parsons is at practice. He's showing up like a true pro. Respect. Could this contract deal eventually get done? Yes, I think it will. But why was any of this necessary at all? Because C.D. Lamb is even going out on social media saying, pay the man. Causing a rift within the locker room. Good for a teammate sticking up for his teammate. Good. Respect. But why was this all necessary? And again, it just comes down to Jerry Jones. And again, now why maybe America's team works for the Dallas Cowboys. Because they're widely known, loved and hated, overhyped, big expectations going into the season, and in the end, they leave us in disappointment. Why? Because of incompetent leadership. Now enough about the NFL drama, and on to college football, where I was looking at the schedules for the upcoming 2025 season for a lot of these teams in the ACC and a lot of these teams in the Big 12, which we know that the Big 12 was a one bid league with their conference champion in Arizona State. And the ACC, by a hair, got 2 in with Clemson's, you could say, upset of SMU, where it left SMU in with the at-large bid. But it got me wondering, because I think 2024 may have been a taste of what's to come. And you're probably asking, what do I mean by that? Because if you looked at the SEC last season, there was quite a bit of cannibalism. You look at the Big 12 last season, it was cannibalism run amok. So it makes me wonder, could there be the possibility that the ACC and the Big 12 could be one bid leagues in 2025? And not for the reason that you think. Those will say, well, the ACC and the Big 12 suck. Maybe in comparison to the SEC and the Big 10, you might be right. But that's not the reason for my theory. I think that there's going to be a lot of cannibalism in the Big 12 this season. With Colorado, Georgia Tech, a week 1 matchup, which I think that Georgia Tech could win. We'll get to the ACC in a moment. But I think with Texas Tech pushing all their chips into the table with NIL and the transfer portal, Arizona State coming back, looking to defend their title. They're getting their quarterback Sam Levitt back and their top receiver in Jordan Tyson. No Cam Scatterbo, but they have Jordan Tyson back. They're going to be looking to defend their title. BYU, do they still have a little magic left from last season? Utah, really bad season last year. Could they be on the rebound again? Baylor, we're going to find out a lot about Dave Aranda and his squad, and especially in their week 1 matchup with Auburn. And that's a stout defense they're going to be facing. But for a fact, cannibalism could make the Big 12 another one-bid league again. And I think there's going to be a lot of cannibalism throughout all the Power 4 in 2025. Outside of Texas, there's many that are up in the air for me. Not to say that they're great teams. They're not great teams. They're good teams. They're not great. But Texas looks like the one right now that I can look and go, I could see that as the SEC champion. Now that I could see a lot of contenders. And the SEC, and this is also part of it as well, which I'll get into in a minute. As far as the ACC goes, I think Clemson's going to run away with it. Yes, the ACC has improved. Georgia Tech's on the rise. Louisville could be better with Miller Moss behind center. I'm not as sold on Miami as I was last season with Carson Beck than I was with Cam Ward. I'm not believing in Miami as much this season with Carson Beck. North Carolina under Bill Belichick could be magical, but most likely disastrous. And Clemson, even with their stumbles, especially going 0-2 in the regular season against the SEC, even with their stumbles, they were still able to come away with the ACC title. Now this team is going to be returning 16 starters, 8 on the offensive side, 8 on the defensive side. And they're going to be a lot better than they were last season. Now, how will they do against LSU? I'm interested to find out because I think that's going to be a hell of a game. Because LSU's coming in with a lot of expectations and they have a lot of talent on that roster. Can Brian Kelly finally get over the hump? Is going to be the big question. But the ACC, I think it's going to be a one-bid league. And I think the rest of the league is going to cannibalize itself. And Clemson runs away with the ACC championship, and they get in the playoff as the only bid out of that conference, which I think is also going to happen with the Big 12 too. It would not surprise me if the Big 12 champion ends up with 3 losses in 2025. Now, that makes things even more interesting from the fact, well, the ACC and the Big 12 are going to get one bid or get one bid per league in the playoff, then what about the rest of them? Which, of course, you have your group of 5, which could likely be a Boise State, Appalachian State, your SEC champion, which right now I feel that Texas is probably in that realm. In the Big 10, I could lean towards Oregon, maybe winning it again right now. I'm interested to see how Ohio State does against Texas on August 30th. So it could, the possibility of either a Big 10, either the Big 10 or the SEC getting 5 bids, including the conference champion. And this time I could see it happening. But I lean more towards the SEC getting those 5 bids. Oregon is solid. Ohio State's going to be pretty good. Michigan's going to be much better. And Penn State has to be even better than they were last season. So those four for the Big Ten, I'm sold on for playoff bids already. But then when you go for number 5, you may have Nebraska, Illinois, which Illinois was highly ranked, surprisingly high in the coaches poll. But I want to wait till the AP comes out next week before maybe I start looking into and maybe buying some of the hype. And then try not to snicker, but Iowa. And if USC somehow finds everything and it clicks, those could be your possibilities of making that run for a fifth spot in the playoff. But when you move over to the SEC, your definite solids, Texas. Right now, I'm going to put Georgia in that category as the defending SEC champion until they show me otherwise. Alabama, I think, is going to be on the rebound. And LSU has a lot of hype coming in. So there's your 4 of the top SEC teams, in my humble opinion, right now. And then from there, who could be battling for that 5th bid, which I do think there's going to be some 3-loss teams in the playoff in an at-large bid this season. Because I think it's just going to be cannibalism all across the board 2025. It's going to be wild, I think. But Ole Miss, Oklahoma, South Carolina, if the defense steps up and Jackson Arnold somehow has his revival, Auburn could be in that mix too. Auburn right now is in the thin line of they could make a really great run or they could fall off a cliff. And it's a very thin line. So it makes me think that if there was going to be a 5-bid league, if the ACC, Big 12 turn out to be 1-bid leagues, which I think is a real possibility, then I think the SEC has the advantage. He's like, well, you left out Indiana. And you're right, I did. Indiana's going to have Oregon and Penn State on their schedule this season. And a schedule that's not as advantageous as last season, but could still be considered advantageous. I don't know how Indiana wins both of those games. And I think if there's a 2-loss Indiana in conversation with a 3-loss SEC team, and if it's not a bad loss to Mississippi State or Vanderbilt, then I think that's where Indiana got the benefit of the doubt. It may come back and even out again. But I'm real fascinated to see how this season plays out, because the SEC, you thought it was the Thunderdome in 2024. It's going to definitely be the Thunderdome and a demolition derby in 2025. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Make sure that you like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also give me a follow on all of the social media platforms. Until next Tuesday, I'm Jason Marks.